Ready.
Welcome to episode 28 of the Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes, and I'm your host, along with my daughter, Emma Hughes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Emma.
Hello.
So welcome back to the States.
Yes, we are in person.
How do you like driving your car again?
Oh, it was great. There's no other feeling like it, except maybe running agility.
So I have a question about cars.
Okay.
And so this pertains to the podcast, so stick with me here, kids. I have a question that I want to ask you about how you drive.
Oh, boy.
And I want you to be honest.
Okay.
It's okay. You can be honest with me.
Okay.
All right. When you're driving on the freeway and you are in the slow lane, so maybe you just got on from, the side streets. So you're now on the freeway. You're in the slow lane, but you want to go fast. So you want to get into the fast lane. Or you just want to get over to the fast lane. And you see a car coming up in your rearview mirror. Do you hit the gas and gun it, scooch over 2 lanes to the fast lane? Or do you slow down, hit the brakes, slow down, and go behind him?
I'll go behind him. But also, I do drive slow cars, so.
Well, we're not talking about your Beetle.
Okay.
We're talking about... Okay, so you go behind him. Would that be
I think so.
a front cross, a rear cross, or a blind cross in agility?
That would be a rear cross.
That would be a rear cross. So
Right.
you slow down. You don't come to a screeching halt, right?
Right.
You slow down and you pull over to the fast lane behind the person. And then you speed up again.
Would a front cross be like a Fast and Furious drift where you turn the wheel, look at them in the eyes, and you're like, I'm faster than you.
Yeah.
And then you spin back around.
Yeah, and yeah, you wave to them
Right.
as you pass by. And you can do it in slow motion if you want, right? Like
Yeah.
you're spinning in front of them.
That's what I do at the track all the time.
Yeah, so it's a handbrake turn doing a front cross, right? Okay, so what if you wanted to do a blind cross? How would you drive that same...
I'd speed up.
You'd speed up.
Yeah.
So you'd speed up, cross into the middle lane.
It is important to check your blind spot, though. Or to make eye contact with your dog,
Before or after you run?
Before and after.
No, just after, really.
Oh, well.
All right, so I want to compare freeway driving
Dog training?
to a dog agility. To the 3 crosses: front cross, blind cross, rear cross. Okay, maybe not the front cross. I think we did give the example of doing so. You're driving along, you hit the handbrake, you spin the wheel, face your enemy, and flip to the other side of the runway.
Seen in Fast and Furious 2, I believe.
Yes. All right, so we won't talk about the front cross with freeway driving, although I think it could be done. If we're doing Mythbusters.
Right, if we're in a stunt room here.
I'll bet it can be done. I want to talk about the blind cross.
Okay.
Specifically about the blind cross. So,
Okay.
yeah, we could use the rear cross as a freeway analogy as well, but I want to do the blind cross. We are making an analogy between driving on the freeway and the blind cross. Okay, here's my rules. The handler is only ever going to run in lanes 1, which would be the slow lane, or in lane 3, which would be the fast lane. Okay? The dog always runs in lane 2. So the dog is always in the middle lane. Always. Just think of it as 3 lanes.
Okay, dog's in the middle, you're on either side.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Not at the same time.
Right.
So you're either moving from lane 1 to lane 3, or lane 3 back to lane 1. And you never live in lane 2. You cross over lane 2 during the cross, but you don't live and run in lane 2. The dog lives and runs in lane 2. So think about it as you're on the freeway. If you want to go from lane 1 to lane 3 in front of the dog, so this would be a blind cross, then you would put on the gas to get in front of a car that's approaching you, especially if they're approaching you quickly, right?
Right.
So if you see that the car coming up in your rear view mirror or your side mirror is gaining speed on you, and you want to get in front of them because your exit is coming, you would hit the gas running and cross over as quickly as you could to then let the car pick up and beat you again.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a blind cross.
Boom.
So there you go. We're done. Podcast over. So
7 minutes in.
What I find that people, as handlers, have a tendency to do is they will get into lane 2 and then they'll wait for their dog. And the dog's like, hello, you're in my way. So I want to inform everybody that the blind cross is about getting out of lane 2 as quickly as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't sound convinced.
Well, no, I'm just thinking that on a on a freeway, everything's very straight, and you can see where you're going and you can see where you've been. Are we going to do this on a country road as well with those nice dotted lines that allow you to pass? I guess that's not the same analogy though, because country roads don't have 3 lanes.
Right. No, you have to be able to do this on a 3-lane, like you're racing in autocross or something.
Yeah,
I don't know, whatever. What's the one where they have lots of cars going and the track changes? Tokyo Drift.
NASCAR.
What kind of
Le Mans?
drive?
Hey, Le Mans is coming up soon, everybody.
Yeah, so if you have
exciting, you can watch that and
you have,
see your agility friends.
If you have 3 lanes available to you, you're going to switch between the inside track lane to the outside track lane, and if the road turns, you're now on the inside track again.
Exactly.
Right?
And you want to take the path of least resistance, right? The fastest path. Here's our little...
Or the shortest path.
Yeah.
For the handler. But has nothing to do with the blind.
No, but it does have a lot to do with car racing.
Well, it has to do with changing sides.
Yeah.
Right? So my analogy, I'm trying to describe this, is that when you're on the freeway and your exit is coming up, it doesn't matter if you're going from the fast lane to the slow lane or the slow lane to the fast lane. It really doesn't matter your speed once you get into one of those 2 lanes. The analogy is that when you do want to cross over from the fast lane back to the slow lane, because your exit is coming, but you have a car coming up from behind that is increasing in speed, you would never put on the brakes if you wanted to change lanes in front of them.
Right.
You would add gas.
Yeah.
And that is a blind cross.
Yeah.
Right? If you put on the brakes, you're stuck doing a rear cross.
Right.
Because that is a rear cross.
Right. And the dog or the car in the middle is always going to be faster than you because your dog most likely is always going to be faster than you.
Right. So then that comes down to blind crosses. If you're going to perform a blind cross, you have to be strategically aware of when you can get ahead of your dog.
Yeah.
Right? So dog goes into a 20-foot tunnel, take off. Go.
Yeah.
Can you send your dog to a jump and leave them? Yeah.
Right.
They have to take corners. They don't know that they're turning necessarily or if you give them direction to the jump you want them to send to and they stay committed, you don't have to wait for them to land. You can take off in the direction you want to go and cut off 3 feet.
Yeah.
And beat them by 2 feet. Right? They're going to catch you eventually. But the blind cross requires that added gas on the handler's part, or strategically leaving the dog behind so that you are in front when you perform it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be faster than your dog. You have to be smarter in your handling and know when you can leave them.
Right.
But then don't hesitate.
This whole thing, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here. You guys know that Subaru commercial of the Golden Retriever family? and they're like in the car and they have the baby in the back.
Well, I know
Imagine that, and that's what you're going up against. That's your dog in a car. And
Okay.
you're also in a car. I digress.
What the heck are you talking about?
You're
No.
like the dog's in a car. Think of it on the freeway. And I was like, oh, this is a
Oh,
commercial.
you mean your dog is driving that car?
Dottie's driving. I think you once made me a PDF picture of Dottie in a Formula One car, and
I
she
did.
was barking. She says, "I love podcasts."
I did.
We should make that the thumbnail of this one or something.
I actually tried to find that this morning.
Oh, I have it. If you would
did?
like it.
Okay,
yeah.
I did try and find that this morning. Yeah, so that's right, because I was doing a thing on blind crosses, and I actually never finished that project there. But I'd like to try and recreate it. I'd like to try and put it onto paper what I'm talking about. But until I do that, I thought this podcast would be a good way to try and emphasize that.
I think it's a good analogy.
Well, all I wanted to express was the speed that not even necessarily.
Speed's a good one, yeah.
It's not even the speed necessarily. It's the just keep moving forward to get in front of the car that you want to get in front of.
Like, you're not going to throw your brakes on the freeway.
Right, you would never get into lane 2 and throw on the brakes and then switch over to lane 1.
Or even if you're in any lane ever on the freeway, you would not come to a complete stop as long as there's not traffic. We're assuming there's no traffic in this scenario. You would never come to a complete stop, would you?
No.
So in agility, don't come into a complete stop.
Okay, here's where it's not like a freeway, but you see people do this all the time, especially street racers. So let's go on.
That's not me.
Let's go on street. Let's go on street racing. You know how you're supposed to go from you look in your mirror, you put on your blinker, you move over one lane, look in your mirror, put on your blinker, move over another lane.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're supposed to turn your blinker off when you do the lane change.
Right, yeah.
And then do another lane change.
Uh-huh.
Right? In agility, we don't turn the blinker off and we don't pause in lane 2 to go over to lane 3. We go right from lane 1 over to lane 3, or lane 3 right over to lane 1 without that pause of the blinker.
Yeah, pretend you are
illegal.
A 16-year-old who just got their license and they have a silly little sports car. Zoom back and forth. Pretend, watch Tokyo or watch Fast and the Furious and channel that energy.
Yeah.
You are Paul Walker.
Yeah, you don't want to stop in lane 2 and throw the blinker back on to go to the next lane.
Right.
You want to drift all the way over.
Yeah.
Tokyo drift
Oh,
all the way
goodness.
over 3 lanes of traffic to get where you want to go in a blind cross.
Yeah. But don't do this in real life.
Yeah, don't do. We're not giving you advice.
We don't support this message.
That's right. Do not Tokyo drift for real. We want you to drift over 3 lanes in agility, but not in real life.
Right. We have to be safe in real life.
So we're not giving you permission to street race, but we want you to visualize it and then walk your course with that visualization and then run your course with purpose, right? Purposely cross over 3 lanes.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another thing that happens in the blind cross that I want to help people clear up. Is the blind cross is not a zigzag.
Oh.
It is not a lightning bolt.
I didn't think.
It should be a straight line for the handler.
Oh, do people? I guess that would struggle for beginner people.
Yeah. When people change hands, they take a side step, like rally, like the side step in rally. You don't take. I mean, you do get out of their way. You do move to the right or the left, but you don't want it to be a football move where you're avoiding something coming in front of you. You want that line to be as straight as possible in your transition from the dog being on one side of you to the dog being on the other side of you.
Yeah, it's a diagonal line, really, isn't it?
It is. It should be a straight diagonal line, not a lightning bolt, where it zigzags.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I never really thought of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, people do that especially on tunnels. They go to the end of the tunnel, they zigzag across it, and then continue straight. Your line should just cut a straight line diagonally
Yeah.
past the tunnel exit,
Yeah.
not parallel to the tunnel exit.
Yeah.
It should be at a diagonal.
Yeah.
Usually, I mean,
And,
there are
well,
exceptions
I
to
mean,
that.
like if
obviously.
you're on like a blind tunnel and you need your dog to see you, but it's
Right.
like, yeah, I think for beginners, a straight line is very good. It's also, I'll see if I can bring this back to the freeway analogy once more. You also have to make sure that when you do change your lanes, you don't have to check your blind spot in agility, but you kind of got to know where the car is behind you or your dog. Otherwise, you will get either taken out in the knees or you will get rear-ended on the freeway. Neither of which are fun.
Yeah, you need to know the acceleration of your own dog, where they're at in relation to you, and if at any point you feel like, I'm going to get smashed here, then bail on the blind cross. Don't go for it. But you also need to learn to predict, what is my dog's speed? Will the tunnel accelerate my dog? Do I have enough time to get the blind cross? But in that moment of making that decision could be the difference between getting enough forward motion or not.
Yeah.
And so you really need to make that decision early and either commit to it, go for it, or bail on it and pull into the rear cross.
Yeah.
Because if you don't pull off the blind, you're stuck with the rear.
Yeah.
You don't have any choice. That's the side change you're going to do.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple of other key elements of the blind cross. So once you perform the blind cross, what are 3 things that tell your dog that, one, a blind cross has been performed, and which side to come up on?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
You know the answer to this.
Your hand will come up.
Yeah, hand signal.
You're gonna make eye contact.
Eye contact, and...
Oh, you like shoulders, don't you?
Well, you're going to drop... Yeah, you're
you draw
naturally...
your shoulder back.
Because your hand's going back, you're
Yeah.
naturally going to drop your shoulder back.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to think about your shoulder too much. You will have to think about the others.
The only time that I really think about my shoulder is when it's a very difficult blind cross for the dog.
Yeah, you're very severe.
And I really want them to know you're pulling up on this side of me.
Right, because opening the shoulder's opening up the lane, isn't it? It's saying this is
Exactly.
the lane that we're taking.
Exactly.
So the more you open your shoulder, the wider the lane
Right,
becomes.
and while they don't change lanes,
No.
you're showing them that you're on a different side of their lane.
Right.
Correct. And the eye contact, sometimes really well-trained dogs that have been doing this a number of years, they'll get it with just the side of your face. But young dogs almost need they need to see both eyes. You don't need to give necessarily direct eye contact, but they need to see so much of your face that they don't question whether or not they're correct on guessing which side.
You just need to acknowledge their existence. Like, you just need to see them.
Yeah.
And they should be okay.
Yeah, make a connection with them with your eye contact, or at least giving them a lot of frontal facial features to help them.
You could probably say their name or, something along those lines, but it's not required.
No, verbal is not required. I don't use a verbal
I know.
on my blind cross. I do say the dog's name every
Yeah,
once
not
in a while.
as a verbal, not as a, every single time I do a blind cross, I say Dot's name. But as a, if she's coming up a little bit wide, I'll be like, hey, let's go on the right-hand side here.
Yeah. And most of the time, if your dog's coming up on the incorrect side, either one, you never even addressed it, you never trained it.
Right.
Because it is a natural behavior for the dog to come up onto the side where you're looking. So that is a natural behavior for your dogs. But you also have to do that with motion, because motion will override the eye contact at times. And if your eye contact isn't at least trained a little bit, then they'll be guessing, right? And they have a 50-50 shot at getting it right. But what's important to know is that of the 3 signals, the eye contact, the hand signal, and the shoulder rotation, the strongest one is the eye contact. So you could do all of this with your hands in your pockets and get the blind cross with just eye contact, but you can't get it necessarily with just a hand signal, because if you're because we run with our hands, right? And so our hands are out there a lot, and so dogs do start to ignore when they're not really directed at the dog. And so if your hand's way back, they may pick that up. But if you're facing forward, looking where you're going, your dog has a 50-50 shot at getting it right, even with a hand signal out there. Because the hand signal, in my opinion, is just not quite enough information to give him the side information.
Yeah.
So are we done?
I guess. That was a good analogy. I liked that.
Okay, I have one more thing about the blind cross. It's a misconception that the blind cross isn't a turning cue. By itself, the blind cross is not a turning cue. But the blind cross can be used on turns.
Oh, yeah.
If the handler's in front and cueing the turn right after the blind.
Oh, yeah.
Or during the blind, right? Like, you can do a blind cross on a turn. In fact, I love it personally. Here's the downside to the blind cross, is that you do lose connection with your dog for a momentary lapse of time. And it really depends on how fast you are in that blind cross as to how much disconnect you create. And if in that side change, when your head rotates from one side to the other, you stop eye contact with your dog and there's a jump right in front of them, they're going to pick up the jump before they realize that you've pulled your head back to a different side.
Right. That, and it cues a ton of forward motion. And so if you are doing a blind cross, maybe on a turn that is pretty tight, you might end up going a little bit wide. Your dog might end up going a little bit wide because it does cue so much forward motion. But I think if timed correctly, you can do a blind cross on almost any turn.
Yeah. And timed correctly, and the handler has to have discipline that once they speed up and get the blind cross, that they then decelerate for whatever they want coming.
Yeah.
To indicate collection, right? Or to at least indicate relative collection. So slowing down just a little bit, maybe not true collection where you want a tight wrap.
Right.
And again, it depends on the dog. A bigger jumper that already struggles with decelerating, the blind cross might not be the best choice for that handler.
Right.
But for a dog that can read their handlers really well, and
even small dogs, like Dot doesn't have issues with it because she's tiny.
I
bet
have,
Jinx would.
Jinx was awesome with
Was
blinds.
he? I don't remember.
Loved
really.
him with blinds.
Oh, good boy.
But I have a handler that has a small Irish black and tan terrier, something like that. And that dog literally reads her feet and her eye contact almost immediately.
Oh, wow.
Really, really incredible sense of what the handler is doing. And she can do any blind cross almost at any point. And as long as she turns and looks at her dog, the dog's like, got it. I'm on it. So I don't think that size, and this is a small dog, this is an 8-inch jumper, could be a 4-inch preferred dog.
Oh, so small.
So
small
very,
dog.
very small.
Oh, cute.
Fast little booger too. I mean, really, really fast. And so the dog can read her intentions very, very quickly. And so I don't think that size necessarily has anything to do with it.
Oh, I think size has a lot to do with it.
But I think that the striding gives this dog a great opportunity to turn quickly.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Because I have seen some pretty big border collies have very short strides. And so they have they have a really good way of turning, like, really, really quickly. But I was talking about, like, big dogs, like, these giant border collies that you see that have really, really, really long strides. I mean, one of my teammates had a border collie that was just huge. He was so fast, but he just couldn't turn when he was younger. And so when you're doing a blind cross, you really have to cue that turn so your dog doesn't go flying out. Not that a turn is bad, not that a wide turn is bad. You'll just lose time.
But you could also pick up other obstacles in that wide turn.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to my original argument, is that I do think that the bigger the dog, the harder it is to turn tighter. Generally, I'd say that for about 75% of big dogs, it's harder for them to turn. Because I never taught Dottie how to turn. She just turns, she knocks cones, she turns that tightly.
Right.
But I never taught that.
But
ever.
I think you did. I think you taught a ton of collection in your backside training.
Oh, well, yeah.
And so I think that you
inadvertently... Yeah, but Millie too. I mean, Millie was small.
And I think that came down to how fast you were.
Oh, yeah, 4-year-olds are not fast.
So I
think
it here. I think that there is a...
Okay, I think we could disagree then. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm saying that I think that big dogs have bigger strides and are harder. If you're doing a blind cross with a big dog, they have a lot more tendency to just shoot out. Unless you're cueing that turn really, really nicely. Yeah,
there definitely needs to be some training involved for them to pick up and read the blind cross really quickly, because the shoulders are driving forward, the feet are driving forward, and there does need to be a very fast reconnection with the dog, which is something that you have right from the get-go with the front cross.
Yeah, front crosses are really good for collection.
Collection and connection.
Yeah, eye contact as you swerve into the middle lane and wave at your opponent.
But I personally think that dogs personally prefer blinds over front crosses.
I think that a lot of people, when they know that they're going to be late for a blind, if they don't trust their rear cross, they will do a front cross instead of the blind. And that just slows everybody down so much.
Yeah, and you can save, even if the dog kind of cuts behind you a little bit, you can wrap them back around with the front cross.
You can accommodate the speed very easily.
Right, where you can't do that with the blind.
No.
Once the dog shoots past you in a blind, it's very, very, very difficult to get them back.
Yeah, I agree.
In time to get an obstacle without incurring a fault.
Right.
Whereas the front cross, you can still save it a lot of times.
Right, because you're turning your entire body into them, which causes a ton of deceleration.
Yeah. The other thing, though, about why I would do blind crosses 9 out of 10 times to the front cross is saving my body. Saving my knees.
The front cross does hurt sometimes, doesn't it?
And you can get disoriented in that spinning.
I've twisted knees doing front crosses. I think only twice, but it has happened, and it hurt really bad.
Right. Okay, so here's my last thing. I may have already said that, my last thing. Here's my second to last thing. Here's my second last thing.
Right.
Is a lot of my students struggle with doing the blind. They do struggle understanding what it is. And so one way that helps them to visualize how to perform the blind cross is they imagine themselves as an airplane.
Oh, that's a good one.
And as they're picking up one dog, they've got their dog on one wing, and they keep flying, and they dip their wing back to pick them up on the other wing.
Yeah.
And then the wing that's going higher, it disappears.
Yeah.
So they fly like they're flying.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do a airplane runway analogy. So you're flying down the runway.
Picture this.
You and your dog. Oh, what was it? Catch Me If You Can. You're flying on the airplane runway. Your dog's running next to you. But there's 2 runways next to each other. Anyway.
This is legal.
I don't think
Air traffic control is okay with this.
All right, so that's it. That's all I've got.
Yeah.
My big thing. 1, reconnect with your dog right after the blind cross. 2, don't slow down in lane 2.
Yeah.
That's your dog's lane. Get out of their lane. Get to the other side of the freeway.
Yeah, for Aaron, that's Max Verstappen's lane. You don't want to be in front of him, otherwise he'll run you over. Formula 1, Aaron. It's this weekend.
Oh, good job, man. Yeah, I mean, you guys all go watch Max what's his name?
Max Verstappen. He's very good. Max Verstappen. He's Dutch. He has
Max?
Max. M-A-X.
And then what?
Is
there a middle initial you're saying?
Max Verstappen. Verstappen is his
Verstappen. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Got it.
But he has not lost yet. It's very annoying.
Okay, so Formula 1's on. Go watch race cars pass each other, and they speed up.
Yeah.
when they're on the straightaway to pass them and try and get back on that inside lane.
You gotta
Well,
be faster
they
than
go
that.
from the outside to the inside back to the anyway.
Yeah, we're getting too
Maybe
into
that's
this.
not the same. All right, Em, go get them.
Go get him. Woof woof.
Woof woof.
Don't get run over in the middle lane.
Ready.